The idea for this movie got in my head around 2002, I think. I was thinking about this period in my life, being in college. I just felt a college movie kind of emerge from my thinking and my own experience. So it's just such a unique time in your life, You're away from home, all the freedom you're confronted with. And, I'd made my high school movie years ago, Dazed and Confused, so this felt like that was my high school, this is my college. And college was so much more fun than high school. It's like all that freedom and choices and, so it was really an examination of a group of young men. In this case, they're all playing on a baseball team, but there's not that much baseball. It's really just their camaraderie, competitiveness, kind of teammate bonding, all that, and the freedom of college, and to try to figure out who you are in the world. We crammed all that into, this opening weekend of college, right before classes start. So it's just been, I don't know, it's just a point I thought was interesting point in someone's development that was worth examining. And I knew it'd be a lot of fun, too. It's a pretty crazy fun time in anyone's life, The good thing about kind of this situation is it's a big youthful ensemble. There's a lot of people. I remember I moved into this house. There was 10 of us in one house and 8 in the house next to us. And so it's just a lot of people around. So I always knew this would be a big ensemble. And it's just finding the great actors who really brought their own spirit and who they are, and all the humor that was derived out of all the time we spent together before shooting was it was just, it's a lot of fun. And it's always fun to have provide a forum for young talent, to have parts that they can have a lot of fun with, Well, ideally, the fun we're having making, in rehearsing and getting to know each other and kind of crafting the movie before we even start, figuring that out just kind of continues once we start shooting. It's not much different. It's just a bunch of people hanging out. But someday, we have cameras around and we're shooting. But the fun never stopped. It was still that kind of camaraderie, and the guys were so there for each other all the way to the end. It was really just a wonderful, it's kind of has that sports veneer on it. So it was, wonderful, like, team effort, On set, once we're shooting, we didn't really have the time or the budget to indulge too much. I've always been worked with kind of restricted budgets, so I've always put all that creative time in the rehearsals. So by the time we're shooting what we've perfected already. I'm not like discovering a whole lot on the set. I'm trying to dial in the last, few percentage points, and maybe if a fun idea kind of comes up or something, you can do it, but we're pretty much doing, at that point, we're doing what we've planned. Ideally, the humor, it's not like punchline humor so much as just situational, it's the group dynamic humor, these guys, the way they relate to each other, just the oddness of who each character is and how they interrelate, and the kind of the competitiveness amongst them and the kind of shifting alliances. So it's a lot of it's the group dynamics. They all gang up on somebody here, and then they all shift, and you can be as he calls it in the movie, you could be the chump like any time. So that was kind of the fun. You have to be on your toes around around these guys. So, but it was fun. Everyone there knows we were making a comedy, but we wanted it to be all realistic in a way. It's not like crazy comedy. It's just sort of like real life comedy. The story centers on, the freshman who's coming into the unfamiliar situation. He has to adapt himself into the crowd. So you see him kind of coming in pretty confident in his own abilities as a ball player, but immediately being kind of intimidated by the surroundings. Like, who are these guys? They're older than you. You're just trying to figure out your new environment. And so you see him try to fit in and where to stand up for yourself and where to kind of acquiesce. So it's a little dance of adaptability, I think, is what Blake Jenner pulls that off great. He's like a great guy who could kind of, he had that, he's a guy's guy on one hand, but on the other hand, he had this kind of poetic, kind of soft performer type side on him. So he was kind of the perfect guy in the middle there, and as he encounters all these the more colorful, kind of crazy teammates around him, but that's really his perspective. There's only a few characters who probably have one-to-one relations, that there is someone from my college team who was like that. There's only a few. I think maybe the McReynolds character, the guy who's better than everybody, there was a guy who's better than everybody, had the Major League Baseball career and all that. And then maybe Niles, the kind of more eccentric pitcher. There was a guy who was kind of out there that people remember. I think those are the only two they can point to and say, oh, that's... Always conceived of this movie as kind of like a party to be invited to, and then to be just glad you went to a fun party. You got to hang out with some fun, eccentric, kind of cool people who seemed like your friends, and it was just a good time. You you kind of absorbed their energy and their spirit, and it was a good place to be. So that's kind of how I see anyone who wants to watch the movie. That's kind of what we're inviting. It's not life and death things. It's just, do you want to hang with these people for less than 2 hours? And, I think those who do have a pretty good time with them.